Sanjay, do you have a story you want to tell us about how you've financed some of your films?
I can't compete with the Bernie the Dolphin Story.
We're done.
I mean, that is actually for the conversation, and this is getting harder and harder, not easier and easier, because this is one of the few industries where the cost of making the product gets higher and higher instead of lower and lower. By all accounts, should be getting cheaper and cheaper, and in an abstract world, it is cheaper than ever to make a film, right? But the cobbling together, I met a guy here, there's a friend who used to go to film school here, she knows somebody, is kind of the ooze of indie filmmaking, right? And so we always look at that from a different side of the equation, which is like the value and the cost. Like, very few people look at a finished film and say, how much did you make it for? I want to give you more than that, right? So everybody's made whole.
Everyone's like, he did great, make it cheaper next time.
No one cares how much the movie cost at the end of the day, right? And so if you're attentive to that as a filmmaker, especially an early stage filmmaker, and attentive to like what the market actually looks like and what financiers want, right? Some financiers, if you're, I mean, the best way to do it is like marry well. Like that's the best way to do it. If I can do it all over again. I unfortunately married for love. But like if you're in like the working market, right? There are some financiers who want to do it for different reasons, right? They want the experience of being involved in film or the arts. They have a kid who is trying to be an actor. Like, cool, that's fantastic, right? And those are some of the best backers of some of the best indie movies out there, right? The ones that are financial investors, right? That are purely like, I invest this and I expect that back. You need to be able to speak that language with them, right? And so that is looking at like the cost of the film, looking at what assets you put around the film, how you package it with different elements, right? What actors command what in a marketplace. And it's kind of a creative exercise. It is a creative exercise, but it's really a business exercise, right? And the more indie filmmakers understand the business they're in, the more successful indie filmmakers will be, right? So, we've cobbled together, we've done probably 10, 12 movies now. Some of them are cobbled together with like a dentist who puts in 10K, some of them are in that model. Some of them are one investor who says, love the project, love the team, here's a few $1,000,000, right? That's not that common. We're based in LA, and so it's a little more common there. And then some of them are pre-sold, right? Which is something indie filmmakers sometimes don't think of or don't have the access to. And that is like you take a movie to a end distributor directly, right? A Netflix, Amazon, Hulu. You pitch them the movie, they say yes, and then they write you the check and you make the movie, right?
That's the rarest of things to get to happen.
Yeah,
at the same time,
for like the indie film world.
Yeah. Right, but I feel like that's such a glorified version of it, though, where like it's rare, but it's like what a lot of people strive for. Where that's tough to fight against. Where me and Stephen were talking about this last night of like. People think that if you can put together 20-30% of the equity, then all of a sudden just like money falls out of the sky. And it does not. Sorry, spoiler alert on that. The business side really ramps up at that point.
I mean, pre-selling your movie, it is, of course, like the most secure way to raise that money and spend it because you already know that you're making it back. On the other hand, pre-selling your movie can limit your upside. And these distributors who are pre-buying films are doing it at the best price possible for them, 2 years out, right? And so you see these movies. It's just certain. Not every movie fits a pre-sale model. Like they're very much driven by the face on the poster, like we're talking about the concept, And if you can get Sylvester Stallone with a gun on a motorcycle, and that's a pre-sellable movie, but the movies that I think we come to film festivals for and that come out of Sundance and we get excited about are not pre-sold movies. And so it's kind of like a very separate ecosystem in terms of the artists that are working in each one, in my opinion, and every once in a while they overlap and you get a great, like, you know, we financed a movie that was on an MG called Bob Trevino Likes It, and it was this really like heartfelt, you know, independent drama with Barbie Ferreira and John Leguizamo, father-daughter story, beautiful, beautiful film, and it for some reason was pre-sold. And I look at the market now, and that was only 3 years ago. That movie doesn't get pre-sold today. The market's changed so much in such a short amount of time, and I can't think of a single distributor now who would look at that cast and that genre and say this is worth $4 million to us, you know, 2 years from now, even though that is what happened.
I feel like that's constantly changing. Like one of my favorite books, good read for everybody's Roger Corman's book about how he got started, and about what I think the title is like how I made 100 movies in Hollywood and never lost a dime. Completely different model than what most people can do today, because like drive-in theaters were a key part of it, but like the themes of that book still apply, of like making it a smart business choice for everybody who's getting involved on the business side, while at the same time giving a lot of artists their start and a consistent way to work and make a living and do all sorts of other things. So like I'm looking at things now and going, okay, well, like content creation, the creator economy is like a huge part of the industry now, and I look at like a bunch of studios are using it as ways to validate projects, where like I think that like the pre-selling and the MG thing is kind of part of that too, where it's like that validates your idea to a certain degree. So like if you're getting feedback from a studio or a network, don't just take it as rejection and go like cry in a corner or anything like that. Like you should take the feedback that you're giving it, that you're receiving, and really think about that. And you know, it might be one of those things, I think it was mentioned in the Roger Corman book too, was that maybe it was Scorsese, somebody famous was saying like, I make two for them, I make one for me. I make two for them, I make one for me. So just, you gotta think about that. It might not be the same financial model for every project you're doing. But then I guess sometimes you gotta worry about being pigeonholed as one type of filmmaker.
Good problems to have.
Yes.